Hey y'all, I just wanted to let you know that we have a Patreon channel. That's right. If you did not know, we are on Patreon. Our Patreon is $8.99 a month where you can come and watch all of our visual elements to our podcast show. So all you have to do is click the link in our description box and it will take you right there. It's only $8.99 a month. Make sure you go and subscribe. Bye. What you know about being poor? What you know about borrowing from your neighbor next door? What you know about bumming rights? What you know about having to swallow your pride? What do you do when you're through? When you're always helping people and nobody's there for you? What can I do or say when you're constantly standing in my face talking about, can you loan me $20 till I give my check next week? I said I only got $20 and me and my baby's got to eat. Can you loan me $20 till I give my check next week? I said I only got $20 and me and my baby got to eat. Shout out to Angie Stone. Oh, rest in peace, Angie Stone. What a legend, honey. Me and my little brother used to love that damn song. Running around here, 11, 12 years old, talking about, can you loan me $20 so we get our check? Ain't got a job the first. Welcome back to another episode of the Hella Chisme Podcast. My name is Dana, and no, Stephanie ain't here. Hello. Um, hello everyone. I'm sitting here talking to myself, which is fine because, we all have intrusive thoughts. So technically we all talk to ourselves on any other day. So why not let it be today, just like any other day? You ever sit there and you be sitting there and you be playing out a scenario in your head? You done got into a fight with somebody and they don't even know it yet? Yeah, I'm just like that too. I ain't no special. But welcome back to another episode this week. Sorry this episode is late, ladies and gentlemen, but let me just tell you, Uncle Dana has shit to do. I had a hectic work week. I had a paper due yesterday. And, I'm just trying to get my shit together. I'm just trying to get my things together, just trying to continue to live my life. I work a full-time job. I'm going to school. I have a husband. I have 2 fur kids. All I'm trying to do is make it out here in this world, honey. And it's been busy. But hopefully it's better late than never to make sure y'all get an episode this week. Other than that, welcome back. Welcome, Blacks. We here again. Hopefully y'all had yourselves a nice, lovely week. And, that's for y'all. Because you know what? We continue to come back and listen to this show. Yeah. That's for y'all. Welcome back. It's been a lot going on this week. So, I hope y'all have really been taking care of yourselves this week. Taking care of your peace, going to talk to your therapist, and however you choose to deal with your stress and heal from that stress. Amen. So last night, while I was writing my paper, I have been watching The Bachelor, the new season of The Bachelor, which is season 29, with this young man named Grant. And I've been liking this season. I've wanted to watch The Bachelor, which I think I've mentioned this before. I wanted to watch The Bachelor, but last night was Family's episode. And one of the girls who he really, really likes and is in love with was Mormon. And I'm pretty sure this is who he's going to pick, but we never know. Also, pause. Shout out to my new glasses. Can y'all tell they Versace? Anyway, mm, if you're watching, you can tell they're Versace. But if you're just listening, just so you know, I have these brand new Versace eyeglasses that I just got with my new prescription. So we out here seeing and believing. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, back to the Bachelor. Last week was Family's Week, and I just watched the episode last night. I say all that to say that, I like this. I like the show. I like that it's this black man on here, and he trying to get him a woman and a wife and have some kids. And I think it's real cute. I'm here for it. Mm. I do think that one of the girls that he is moving forward with, I don't really see it for them. I think her name is not Natia. It's another girl. I think she's the beauty passion girl, and I cannot remember that girl's name, but I don't know. I don't see it for her. She seems a little too stony, a little too, she's a little pent up. Um, Beautiful girl. I think she was also a pageant girl. And so I also think with pageants sometimes comes some insecurities down the line. I think she has some of those, as does anybody. But, it's just, I'm not seeing it for the two of them. I see him with the Mormon girl more than anything, or Juliana. That's the Italian girl. The two of them, I can see either one of those happening. So, anyway, if you've been watching The Bachelor, let me know. Let us know in the comments. Also, I finished the last episode of Love is Blind last night. And if you've been listening to the show, you know my back and forth and my issues with Love is Blind, especially as of lately. I love to watch and support the show, but it's just been pissing me off more and more. So, I just want better for the show. I want more for the show. I wanted it to truly be a show about finding love, finding people who actually want to get married, and them actually doing that and going through with it. Not the bullshit that we've been getting from Love is Blind. And don't get me wrong, right? I understand that people get in relationships and then they find out and determine actually the love they have for each other is probably not enough to lead them to the aisle to get married. And also that this is a show and there's only so many weeks that they have to cover so many topics. So I also understand that sometimes the topics that they need to cover, they need to dive deeper into to be able to make that final decision. I get all that. But all that time y'all spend in the pods, you mean to tell me we're not asking these questions? Like, I don't know. I'm not here for it. I'm like, get this shit done and let's have this beautiful wedding. That's what I want to see. I'm here for the beautiful weddings, honey. Stop picking these people that don't want to get married. And I'm tired of every time they're getting to the altar, they're talking about it's too fast. Bitch, do you know what you signed up for? You signed up to be on a show where you sit behind walls for 2 or 3 weeks. And then after the 2 or 3 weeks, you then come out of the pods for another 4 weeks. And then you live together. And then you need to decide in the 4 weeks if y'all are going to get married or not. I would be much happier if these couples would move into these apartments and within the first couple of days or first couple of weeks, they're like, it's not seeing it. Okay, we got to leave the show. We're done. But instead, I feel like people are staying to continue a storyline. And that is frustrating to me because that's not what I want to see. Yes, me, selfish. I want to see a love story. So I think one out of four of the couples got married. Devin and what's that girl's name? Oh my gosh. Devin and Virginia. I expected them to get married. I am very surprised they didn't. Virginia had this man sign a prenup and then didn't even marry him. Like, girl, what are we doing? And at the end, I understood what she was saying because they had a lot of conversations about politics. And he, from, things that have been coming out, seems like he's a very right-wing person. He's all about the repubs, which, that's your life. You live it. But she's not about that. And that seemed to be a problem for her. It was also, I think, something about a check that's supposed to come up and come out during the reunion that his mother wrote a check for them for their anniversary, for their gift, for the wedding. And she felt like she couldn't trust him after that. I don't know. I just feel like, you're on a show about getting married. You are supposed to do it in X amount of time. If you don't think at the end of that road that you are going to be able to say yes at the aisle with the person that you've chosen, then you need to respectfully bow out instead of wasting everybody's time. And that's just what I have to say on that. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode is an episode reprise. We, during this time last year, talked about International Women's Day and Women's History Month. And I thought it would be perfect to bring back this episode and, just go back through the history and information about International Women's Day and Women's History Month on International Women's Day. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the conversation that me and Stephanie had. And we will see you all again next week. Bye.
Hey guys, just wanted to come on here and remind you that we still are on Patreon. And if you would like to see all of the visual content and for future, present, and past episodes, then you would want to subscribe to that. It's about $8 a month. But for real life updates and behind the scenes clips and, updates, surveys, polls, make sure you are following us on Instagram at Hella Chisme Pod and YouTube, Hella Chisme Podcast. We do lives and other, events and stuff like that you want to definitely be part of. So go ahead and follow us on there and stream us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast streaming service you prefer. And thank you guys for tuning in.
And we're back. Do you know what I was listening to? So I ended my subscription with Apple Music because my husband was like, I'm paying for Spotify Premium and it's a family package, so you need to get on it. And I was like, Okay. So I ended my Apple Music subscription, which meant that all the music I had been listening to um was all music that I downloaded previously to Apple. And so I was getting into like, some older, like early, like mid 2000, like, the Tiana Taylor album. I was
Mhm.
listening to some old Chris Brown from like his the Royalty album where his daughter had just was born,
Oh yeah.
and some old Miguel, like,
Oh my God, that's good.
yes,
Good
random.
choice.
Um But yeah, so like we mentioned, March is a celebration of Women's History Month, and International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th. And so, for the most part, um, most corporate settings do celebrations for their women of their corporations, and people celebrate these things online as well, and on other podcast platforms and all different kinds of ways people celebrate these things, and that is what we're gonna be doing here. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the history of Women's History Month and how that started, and then we'll just get into a little bit of conversation about some things over the years that have happened in with women being front facing in these things, and yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start off with how Women's History Month started. So the very first Women's Day happened on February 28th, 1909. So over 100 years ago.
Mhm.
And to commemorate the 1 year anniversary of the New York City garment workers' strikes. Um, and however, Women's History Month did not become a regular occurrence until decades later. So it happened that day, and then it didn't become like a consistent regular celebration until a couple of decades later. So in 1981, so like 70 years later almost, California's County Commission on the Status of Women created Women's Week, coinciding with International Women's Day, to honor women's achievements. It was started to highlight women's achievements across various fields, from science and politics to art and business, and to inspire future generations. And the National Women's History Project successfully lobbied Congress to designate all of March as National Women's History Month in 1987, so 6 years later. Since then, it's become an annual observance in the United States and globally.
Mhm. Yeah, and so International Women's Day is observed annually. So, like I mentioned, right, we have one coming up for March 8th. And it's a global celebration honoring essentially women's social and economic and cultural, political achievements, same as, celebrating women's history. So celebrating the celebration of women is what these things are about. The history behind International Women's Day can be tracked from early 20th century, emerging from labor movements and socialist activities. During the 1910 International Women's Conference, women's advocates and communists Carla Zekatin proposed the concept of a day dedicated to women's rights, and the first official International Women's Day was celebrated on March 19th, 1911 in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland. And then over the years, the day evolved into a global occasion with themes varying annually to address contemporary women's issues. So, which leads me to speaking to what this year's theme is, which is women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And this theme celebrates women who understand that DEI, or equity, diversity, and inclusion, is important for a positive future, and just making sure that we can eliminate bias and discrimination from our lives, which every day is a struggle in the life that we're living in these days, where discrimination and bias is something that is always coming up in all aspects of all of our lives. Um, one of
I,
the other, oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Just to piggyback on that, I think it's important to remember like we can just contribute like what we can in the moment,
Hmm.
like if you do one small thing to honor women or like women that inspire you, whatever, like, and then I do it and then so and so does it and it has like a ripple effect. That's when it becomes like a large movement, like
Hmm.
remember you can't like take it all on like by yourself, but little things end up connecting to like a big thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's important to say because especially working in the field that I work in DEI, where we often have to take on so much to make sure we're recognizing everything throughout the year so that no one thing is overly celebrated and nothing skipped over.
Right,
So and when you talk about women in these different spaces, like for instance, women in tech and STEM, women in political spaces, and or women in like the art and creative sectors. You have to think about like we have to all of those the way all of those things intersect is important in understanding that it's important to acknowledge all of the different identities in those spaces and not feeling like we have to um, we have to take that all on just for
right,
ourselves to be able to, speak to it.
right. And on the flip side, it's like to like don't be that person that's like, oh, well, even if I do this, like it's not gonna make a big like change, It's like, well, a lot of little changes equal one big change, or like a lot of little acts of kindness or acts, of like recognition to
Mhm.
things like this, like, International Women's Month. It's like little things, like I said, it's like a web, right? And it becomes like a larger scale thing. So
Mhm.
I know the colors are like white, green, and purple. So even wearing things like that just to like, show unity or whatever it is, whatever method, you choose to show that support is up to you.
Yeah, and it says, so it breaks down kind of the why the colors and what they mean. So it says officially Women's History Month, colors are white, green, and purple, but you often see many shades represented, including pink, reds, golds, and others. So white is the color associated with the suffragists who fought for women's right to vote. Green represents new beginnings and was another popular color among early suffragists. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't feel like I am.
Sounds good to
Um,
me.
and then purple is the most associated with women's causes as a whole. Since in the 1900s, purple has been used for International Women's Day and naturally became part of Women's History Month palette. It is also used for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which we've talked about last year in October, and can confirm that the color purple was because I believe we wore purple that episode too, right?
I think so, but if we didn't, I know we touched on it for sure.
Yes.
So listen
So
back to that episode.
yes, yeah, go back. Last October we did do a domestic violence episode where we just talked through like, experiences if personal, and just kind of went through some statistics around the domestic violence. Um, so
Yeah.
yes. So tell me, any women specifically that stick out to you that, is inspiring or any stories that are inspiring to you as far as, just thinking about Women's History Month and International Women's Day.
Um, on the creative side, I would say that Someone I've always looked up to and admired is Frida Kahlo. I just her art and like her free spirit and her like, back then and even now it's like not always accepted or like it's kind of frowned upon, I guess, to be so like free and like open and like just like free spirited, and she decided, she did her own work, like her art was, the way she lived and um sexually she was just like free and then artistically and then she was involved in a lot of like social justice issues and like used her artwork to combine those two things and use it to connect like with her husband and then it just it was like her creative like it connected her to so many things that made differences,
Mm-hmm.
but it was something like she genuinely enjoyed doing and it was like authentic to herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
I mean,
like, creatively she was like a good
yeah, and I mean, not to mention also all of the things that she went through her career,
right.
having health issues, at one point being completely disabled and couldn't get out of bed, but still, having the will to persevere and continue to move forward. And then also just her iconic look.
Mhm.
I feel like we see people reinvent the look or now today where there's people who still have the kind of unibrow, but they've made it this thing that's so largely a part of pop culture and high fashion, that it's not something that's so taboo or like, oh, you need to go get that wax. People, it's become like a thing.
Yeah,
um so I think I definitely agree with that.
I think too like she, as a Latina, it's like, oh my God, like, it wasn't the norm for a woman to be that way or present herself that way. And then on top of it, she was never able to have kids. And it was like a lifelong, battle internally with her with that, because she did like miscarry and things like that.
Hmm.
And I think too, like as a Latina woman, like, in living in Mexico, it's like, oh, like you can't give your husband a baby or like like you don't have kids, like
Hmm.
what's wrong with you? Or like there was like a stigma behind that and like judgment behind that, and she just like pushed through that and still like lived her life.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that was cool.
Yeah, and then that just speaks to kind of the struggle that women automatically go through just being a woman, having to be pressed to build a family or to find a husband, or then now you found a husband, so now you have to bear children. And, there needs to be a son involved. There needs to be, a little girl, because women often feel like they have to have a little girl. Men feel like there needs to be an heir, like there has to be a little boy. So, just
You
thinking
gotta keep
about.
your husband.
Yes, having to keep a marriage going, having to take care of the house, take care of, the food and everything, cook dinner every night, like have to take care and bear the responsibility of taking care of a household, kids, and a husband. So it's all of those things that should be consistently celebrated, and not just during one month, but these are the things that women in history and women do
Day to day.
day to day.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have somebody that you admire, like look up to that, has been an example for you?
Yes, I mean, number one person for me obviously would be my mother. I mean,
Mhm.
she has obviously been in my life all of my life, and has definitely been the one to consistently inspire me to continue to do things differently, and to continue to move forward even when shit is happening, and there's uh, continuous things happening around you in the world. Other than her, obviously the women of my family, they are all very strong and prevalent, and have been done a lot, and have had great careers, and have done amazing things throughout their lives. But just thinking about in the creative space in like pop culture, honestly, for me, it would have to be like, obviously Beyonce, Megan Thee Stallion. You think about Lady Gaga, you think about the people that came before them, like Little Kim.
Mhm.
Honestly, for me, it's the rap girlies that inspire me, because it's the ability to be able to put yourself out there like that in a space where that is so male dominant and male driven. Um, because it takes a lot. Like, you're already being ridiculed and criticized because you're a woman. And then on top of that, you want to be as outspoken. You want to say all the things that you want to say. And then you are going to be heavily criticized and labeled because you're a woman, and you should only be saying these things and look this certain type of way, in order to not be such a hard pill to swallow in this pop culture and rap game. And then just thinking now, like the how the industry is, um it's like a specific look. Like, there is a specific type of girl that, people are looking at, and ultimately so they can sexualize these people to make them feel like they can be palatable for the norms, for people to want to pay attention to them. That whole thought of sex sells, and you have to look this way. So, people want to essentially look at you, watch you, and listen to your music.
Right.
So I feel like what's inspiring about that is the ability to be able to still do that and still put forth the art that you want to put out at the same time.
Right. I think for me, like family wise, same thing, like the women in my family have been, obviously on a personal level, like an example or like a motivation for me. And they've all factored in different ways. Like my mom, just her work ethic and like not being afraid to like pursue her own type of like, work and like making her money and things like that, and not, solely depending on a male to provide these things. And like, I think that has been a motivation. I think, like my aunt, she's a big supporter of us, and she was always an example of like pursuing like a creative side,
Hmm.
because she was always really like nurturing with me and things like that. But I would always see her like making cakes and like selling her cakes, or like anything she could make, like she would make it and sell it. She always has had a creative side, and like parties, like she decorated my whole sweet 16 and was like so patient with me, because we all know I'm a little picky, so so yeah. And I think just all my aunts, like taking care of their health, like presenting themselves a certain way, like looking nice and just like carrying themselves a certain way. Like it's all played, a different part in my life, and carries over like to the next generations. And then, I have a daughter now, so it's like
Hmm.
my being mindful of like the things I want her to like carry in herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, the we have to think about like the way that things are carried down from, each generation to the next, right? And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, even obviously my mom has been around all of my life, and I've been able to distinguish what I should do that she's done that was be influential, and how either I could do that differently because I watched her go through so many things. And that's the same things that I do when I'm looking at like people that do inspire me. And I was just talking about the rap girlies or anybody that's in the creative space, because I know what I ultimately want in the end, and I know ultimately what I don't. But let's take a pause, and we'll continue this conversation after this break. Bye. Okay, and we are back. So, just speaking in terms of like, women's history. I mean, I wanted to do trivia, but I was like, let's just like kind of just talk through like a couple of areas. So I wanted to talk through like, trailblazing women in politics, leadership, and rights movements. Um, and so particularly this category celebrates women who have made significant strides in politics and leadership, including historic firsts that have paved the way for future generations. And I don't necessarily want to have conversation about specific people in politics. What I would like to see talk about is just like in any professional settings where you've like worked with women that was like inspiring to you, maybe like at a job or a event or conference you went to that was like, you know, I learned something for her. I fuck with her. Like she was very, very like, dope. Like I got some nuggets that I could use in life.
Um, I would say, well, where I'm at right now, like where I'm working right now, like the women, like the people that are higher up are mostly women,
Mm-hmm.
and like we've had a couple of like all staff like get-togethers, and like the women there are like they're bosses,
Mm-hmm.
like, and they're the field I work in is like it requires a lot of empathy, and it's a helping field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they balance that with being like a boss with
Mm-hmm.
along with like balancing like they have kids and stuff like that. And this branch that I work in, it like it's semi new
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to the agency as a whole. And like essentially these women like started this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now it's like a huge part of this agency. And there's like two, like the main person that runs this department. um she's like there's a lot you can learn from her, and like she drops little, like you said, nuggets of knowledge and things like that. And also there's like another woman, and they have uh like a resource, I guess, within our department, and it's like they teach you like self-care, and they teach you like mindfulness, and they teach you like all kinds of like um things like of yourself within the field as a whole, and like how
Mm-hmm.
to care for yourself. And she's like a Latina, well, they're both Latinas.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool to see like all of that, because it's not always something people are informed on. Like with Latinos, like you don't really learn that much about like self-care or like um shadow work, journaling, or like breathing, like meditation. Like you don't learn these things that really can help your body
Mm-hmm.
and your mind and
Mm-hmm.
heal, and like grow
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
boss up, you know
Yeah.
and really step into like your power and like your what you're capable of and things like that. So I think um as of lately, like that's been something like cool and like inspiring for me.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback off that because I wanted to pinpoint something that you said about like your leadership being a good portion of women and representation and the importance of representation, right? Like I I don't often I like to be a part of things where I see people that, look like me and I can see representation of myself, especially in leadership spaces. Like, it's inspiring. I don't, and you can speak to this, but it sounds like what you're saying is inspiring to me because they look like bosses to me because they're women, they're Latina women, and I'm a Latina woman who aspire to someday be in a position like that. And
Mhm.
and I think that that is important, especially when you talk about like working for the counties, working for federal and government spaces. Seeing representation is very, very important.
Yeah, just when you work, yeah, like for larger agencies and things like that, it is important to see representation, like you said. And I feel like when you see people that you can relate to or like that you could see parts of yourself like in,
Hmm.
it gives you also like a safe space to really be yourself. And I think
Hmm.
when you can be yourself, like that's when you essentially do a better job, right? Because you feel more free, like, and you feel comfortable and happy, so you give more and like you
Hmm.
have better outcome and like it just is overall better for the agency, it's better for you, it's better for everybody.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's important.
Yeah, 100%. So and then to answer my own question, I think I've said before that I went to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco where I started studying men's fashion design. And one teacher that I, always reference and take and will talk about like my experience in her class was a woman who she was one of my professors for my it was my design um it was my creative design class where essentially you had to go and make flats, which, short of what that is. So a flat is when your a piece is being designed, so whether that's shirt,
Mhm.
t-shirt, pants, it is made into a flat where you have to um, send it over to where it's going to be made or mass
Yeah.
produced, whatever. And they have to know how many sleeves they need to make, how many this, is there a different piece of material, all of
Mhm.
that. So it was a full on fashion design class where you would design your whole collection and you make flats, all of those things. Anyway, first day of class, this teacher was essentially just going over like her syllabus and everything. And then she offered like, some advice to us because at this point, I was a second year student.
Mhm.
And, second year is when you just start getting more deeper into, you know, theory, fashion design, what it's going to be like in the industry. And, the first thing that this teacher said to me was just like, or to the class was, everybody's not going to like you. And I was like, she said it, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was almost
What do
like,
you mean everybody's not gonna love me? No.
well, for me, yeah, that was my first thought. But as I began to go through, school,
Mhm.
it was definitely something like a weight that was lifted off of my shoulders because there was no pressure to impress or make anybody feel like, or make me feel like I had to do something to impress someone because the art that I was doing was mine.
Right.
And the whole time in her class, I just felt like, she's very, very open of, yes, this is your style, but this is how you can clean it up. Like, she's
Okay.
always, always super engaged, always, very much so like, this is dope. Like what you're doing, it is amazing, but this is how you can make it better. You can still, be unconventional. You could still, have a super, uh, uh, deconstruction aesthetic. You can still have all of that, but here's a way for you to improve what it is that you're doing a little bit better to make it more, to add more, a little
Yeah.
bit more to it.
Yeah. I think that's cool too that she didn't try to take away like the individuality from it, like
Hmm.
or the uniqueness of like, yeah, like keep it the way you want it. Just maybe try this and then it'll be better quality and then like more
Hmm.
appealing or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And and it was really dope because she also worked for Stussy, which I don't know if Stussy is still popping. I haven't seen it in a while, but she was a art creative for Stussy because her husband worked for Stussy as well. So she was teaching part-time. So it was just dope. Like she was really inspiring, very, very cool to, sit and listen to her stories of work. She would bring in her tech packs from Stussy, like from old collections that they had. So that was dope. So that was definitely, just one of my first examples of where I have been able to work with incredible people or women in this aspect, and just be able to pick up on things that they've experienced in the industries, especially an industry that is very fast paced and that is known for, if it ain't in, then it's a chop. Like
yeah,
it
it's
ain't
out.
nothing that is out. Like
Yeah.
like we good off that. So yeah, that was really, really cool.
I think that's cool too because it's like sometimes people don't realize like the power of like femininity and like feminine energy.
Mhm,
Like just because you stand for those things like doesn't mean you're like a feminist or
mhm,
whatever, right? Which there's nothing wrong with being that. But I think like feminine energy is just as important as masculine energy. And I think like giving you like that safe space to like be yourself is like it's like a feminine, like a maternal thing almost, right? But it's like you can apply that in many spaces of your life, not
mhm,
just as a mom or as a wife or whatever your role is. Personally, like you can incorporate that into like the workplace, you can incorporate that into like spiritual experiences. You can apply that like to so many things, and I think it's like it's so dope and powerful.
mhm.
And I think stepping into that and like doing your research on it or like embracing that is it allows things to flow to you like and just like it's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And so just wrapping that up, I think that, you know, International Women's Day and Women's History Month is definitely something that it should be celebrated. Definitely, talk to those people who influence you. Even if you have a mentor, it does not need to be like someone, you could be inspired by anyone, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I talk about all the time how I'm inspired every day by different things, and it's not just always one thing.
yeah,
I could see something and it would prompt me to want to do something or, jump at a different idea. And
right.
that's what I mean when I say, celebrate the women that inspire you, people or women that you work with. Give them their big ups because it ain't easy out here
It's at all.
at all. Like we live in a world right now where we are consistently rolling back to old times where the shit that was in place may not be in place tomorrow. So I think it is definitely a time where most people are always looking for something to celebrate, and definitely celebrating the influential women in this world is always important.
100%.
Um, okay. With that being said, spiritual uh aspects. As I continue to say, we are in a virtual setting currently because we have life changes going on and other things happening that you will learn soon. Last week I did share that yes, I am starting a new role. So that's part of it, but also there is more things happening and coming. So, be on the lookout for that. Do you have anything you want to share just for like a little spiritual piece like we usually would do?
Just to hop on that, also don't forget our live is March 16th. So when this comes out, it'll be tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure you're on that.
Yes.
Please, we'll have a special guest, Vanessa Lomali. She is a boss chick, speaking of. So you wanna tune in and get informed, get some information out of it and have a good time.
Hmm.
Spiritual segment. I was speaking to somebody today in the place that I work, and it was a really good conversation. This person completely changed their life around, and is just a really good person, got sober after living on the streets, and works with an agency that the agency I work for, works with. And, having a conversation of we were having and I said, you must be proud. And it's like, that person said yes, but um, you also have to learn with forgiving yourself for certain things, and relearning to love yourself.
Hmm.
And it was crazy because on Sunday it was kind of like the same thing in church, and learning to receive love. And I
Mm.
think, I just want people to remember you're worthy, and learn to slowly. You can do your research online or find ways that work for you, whether it's affirmations or whatever your journey is. Find a way to release and forgive yourself, and
Mm.
actually love yourself, so you can love others, and just keep that, keep that energy like that,
Hmm.
you know. I don't know. I think it's just what you give, you receive, and it's just a whole thing, and it makes you feel good about yourself too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I hear you saying is that, everybody deserves love.
Yeah.
And, we are in an era where, shit like what happened to Risa Tisa can happen to anybody.
We're
Um,
also in such a judgmental era too, of
yes.
there's
Speaking
such
of her,
social
yeah.
media, and it's
Hmm.
everything you do or you say, it's under a microscope, and then
Hmm.
not to mention you're your biggest critic, but you're your
Hmm.
biggest barrier, you're your biggest. So learning to unlearn that, and just forgive yourself, and be easy on yourself and love yourself
Yeah. I
is
mean,
important.
it's important. And also, I think we've said on the show before that you cannot take social media and everything too seriously because of these things. Like people are very quick to judge. Cancel culture is still a thing. People are very quick to be like, oh, we need to cancel this person because of this. And I think that just thinking about all of that, it is very important to realize that, you know, it's just it's just the internet. It's really
Right.
not that serious.
And don't be a fucking troll, bro. I've
That
said
too.
so many times, be a human. We're human, it's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, with that being said, like Stephanie mentioned, do not forget to join us tomorrow for our virtual live event with Vanessa. And then also, if you know anybody that would be interested in joining on March 21st, on Thursday, March 21st, I will be hosting alongside Alexandria Scobie a facilitated discussion that is around the reality versus the reality of the American dream and the inequities of, living through the American dream and what that is essentially, because what really is the American dream, right?
That we need to have an episode on that because we just said this when I saw you, and I was like, "This fake ass American dream.
Yes, yeah. So
Make
that
your
is
own American dream."
exactly. So that is on March 21st. The link to the event will be in this bio and actually is in also previous episodes bios. And then other than that, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us on our Instagram and TikTok. And also Threads. We've been getting followers on Threads. So I'm starting to see more and more people are joining Thread, which is dope because we do not use the Twitter.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, give feedback, engage with us because we love that.
Yes, we love it. We love it a lot. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's not as long as we usually do, but we just wanted to, drop some nuggets and talk about a couple of things. And we will see y'all back next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, y'all. If you like what you heard, make sure you join the conversation. We always say to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we definitely want you to do that. But also, we would love if you would join in with us. There's a link in the description where you can actually send us messages. You can also make sure to tag us on social media, put up your favorite clips of the show, and then tag us, and we will repost them on our stories. That is the best way to get in communication or community with us, and we would love to see y'all interact with the content. Anyway, thank you for following us, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you back for the remainder of the show. Bye.